R-rated.
Yeah.
Will it still be funny if it comes out? Hopefully.
Hello and welcome to my channel, A&A Snakes and More. Today we'll be talking about Freddy Krueger, so let's jump in.
Krueger, not Cougar. He ain't Cougar.
I said Krueger.
No, you say Cougar.
Okay,
Like
Freddy Krueger.
No. First you say Cougar like he's some goddamn animal in the jungle or some freaking lady trying to have sex for work off the
Come to
sidewalk
Freddy.
down the road.
Call me crazy, but weren't the childhood
Okay, you are crazy.
adaptations we grew up in with the 80s and 90s totally twisted in concept. Sure, I get the transition of R-rated action fair into video games and toy licenses.
No, not toy licenses. Video games is okay, but not toys.
Two kids. RoboCop wasn't about corporate corruption
Yes, it was.
or solitaire.
Yes, it was about
We
corporate
just
corruption.
showed up for their badass cyborg. Total Recall was more about Honored being a badass than it was a trippy, is it or is it not a dream analogy for wish fulfillment. Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which we covered
With more
in our last
action than
entry,
horror.
was steeped in questions about fate
It
and
was more
choice.
action than horror. The first one was horror. That was more action. The second was more action. It was.
But to a young viewer,
I want Freddy come
it
back.
was all about the slick Skeletor, T-800s. All these series
Can
were
I
as
have Freddy
drenched
to come back, goddamn?
in
Why
Kurosawa
are you doing this in the
blood
kitchen?
effects as they were in subtext.
Can I have Freddy come
And yet
back?
we were
I
none the
want
wiser.
Freddy.
Video game publishers of the
Yeah,
era
it's been around
must
since
have taken
2009
notice
or 2010,
for each
damn
of
it.
these action cinematic franchises received decidedly less bloody renditions on the NES. But what about a film genre that doesn't just carry the R rating, but is particularly defined by it? Grisly themes and splatter aren't just present, they're often the whole damn point. I speak of horror films wearing their mature ratings like a badge of honor as they push the boundaries of practical effects and often good taste. The late 80s is considered a golden age for the genre, for its wizardry of cultural design, the proliferation of the home video market, and a new subgenre, the slasher. Slasher villains weren't simple antagonists. They were the veritable stars of the show. Audiences would line up to watch a harmless gaggle of teenagers engage in all manner of debauchery as a masked figure stalked ever closer, machete in hand. I wonder who that could be.
It's the goddamn mama's boy who loves hockey way too much.
Many
He needs
of
to stay in
these
the goddamn lake and drown.
were
forever.
mortality tales, as the innocent teenagers were usually the ones to survive. But there was one franchise in the mix that totally broke away from this mold. Freddy Krueger didn't care how nice a person you were. It didn't matter if you drank or smoked or snuck behind the bushes with a crush. he was coming for you, and in a manner you'd have little way of escaping your very dreams. A Nightmare on Elm Street is about as R-rated as it gets, both in terms of content and the villain's horrific origin story as a slasher killer. Freddy bucks the trend of a largely silent, hawking brute, where Jason and Michael Myers were silent wraths. Freddy taunted his victims first, then boasted about their demise later. And those kills were never simple. Freddy's not one for the simple machete swing. He puts his quarry through a sick game of cat and mouse, often built around a twisted reflection of the target's personality before delivering the final bloody crusado. Gotta give credit to Robert Englund's charismatic performance for making this character so memorable. Freddy may be a hateful demon of vengeance, but he's a showman at heart. Over the film series, his demeanor morphed from sarcastic sadist and more to killer comedian. But his kills remain stellar. Horror set pieces, thank rapping sets, and crazy transformations. Freddy's revenge seldom lacked in speculation. So how in the world did this translate over to the Nintendo Entertainment System? A Nightmare on Elm Street for the NES comes to us from the infamous LJN. But despite the trends of a certain angry video game legend, the game is more fun than its publisher's reputation would have you believe. Releasing in 1990, NES Nightmare would have had the first 5 films in the series to draw upon, the latest being The Dream Child at the time. Though the game doesn't center on any one film in the franchise, I caught nods to various entries, and the tone was on point. As you fire up the game, you're immediately met with nice spooky tune. It's not the classic piano dun-na-na of the films, but sets the mood all the same. We then cut right to a shot of Freddy's ugly mug, letting the player know exactly what they're in for. The feel of the overworld hub knows. The creepy surrealist tone of the film. Houses appear to stretch into the background, giving everything a slated look. That'd be right at home in the early German expressionism film. Thank the cabinet of Dr. Corgi, which inspired the Tim Burton autistic scene in films like Beetlejuice. This overworld is essentially your level select as more doors open, as levels are completed, beckoning you to venture within to collect Freddy's bones. And that, my friends, is our mission objective. Collect and destroy all of Mr. Krueger's scattered remains, similar to how the heroes needed to construct Freddy's remains in Nightmare 3, The Dream Warriors, only rather than being in a single select location, they're strewn all over town. Not an exact adaptation, but Freddy's been killed a bunch of different ways. And this is more thematic than most. So points for a creative twist on a collectathon. Alas, you don't play as film heroines Nancy or Alice, instead controlling a random black slate teenager. Still, your character's controls are tight and responsive. Jumping is a bit floaty, which can be dangerous around the conspicuous bottomless pits. But you get the hang of it. Your primary punch is woefully ranged, making it easy to get hit while trying to attack enemies. Fortunately, the game's most innovative technology is one that both improves gameplay while anchoring it to the film series. Your character can take a few hits before dying, but damage also has a second consequence. It drains your sleep meter. Once it's empty, you drift off into the dream world where enemies are tougher and you can only wake up through either defeating Freddy or finding a radio. However, despite these drawbacks, the dream world also houses the game's most potential weapon, the dream powers. Most well known in Nightmare 3, the Dream Warriors, and Nightmare 4, the Dream Master. Dream powers give the protagonist personality-linked abilities that allowed them a fighting chance against Freddy. Up to this point in the series, Freddy was godlike in the dream world, particularly untouchable. Dream powers allowed our heroes to fight back. Guaranteed, it still usually resulted in their deaths, but it added more tension to the mix. They had a shot at survival, however slim, and NES's adaptation provides 3 forms of dream power, each referencing a character from the films. The Niggerman's fireballs are a clear homage to D&D fan Will from the Dream Warriors. Martial artist Rick from the Dream Master has gotta be the inspiration for the shrunken tossing ninja. And though it's vague, the Javian throwing acrobat must be a nod to the athletic Debbie from Dream Master, or strongman Kincaid from the Dream Warriors, adding to the creepy factor of how our trio doesn't possess these powers intentionally. In the Dream Master, Alice gains the dream powers of her slain friends after their deaths, implying that these power-ups are the result of your buddies already biting the dust at Freddy's sharp hand. When it comes to fighting Freddy, you're better off asleep. And with access to dream powers, yes, enemies are tougher, but your abilities really help in boss fights, as getting up close to puts you at risk of taking damage. All of the bosses are some transformation of Krueger himself, but that's no surprise considering how much he shapeshifts in the films. Some forms see swarms of little million creatures fly around the screen while you're trying to hit Krueger, making dream power projectiles and abilities even more helpful. It seems serious wish fulfillment to ninja kick Freddy Krueger in one of his nasty boss forms. Speaking of which, the NES obviously couldn't replicate the gore of a crushed cockroach girl or a literal fountain of Johnny Depp pop. So instead it opts for weird Freddy manifestations in its boss battles. A disembodied razor glove pays homage to Rick's death in The Dream Master. The Freddy worm is a direct pull from the iconic scene in The Dream Warriors, with the little tongue tactics it spits mirroring another scene in the same film. Not all the bosses are direct. I don't recall Freddy ever turning into a giant battle ghost, but seeing as he's been a television, a motorcycle, a hall monitor, a superhero, and stop motion
Freddy was superhero. Super Freddy.
Matidao, among many, many other things. There's really no limit to what he could show up. As mentioned, nothing is 100% direct from any one film, but more of a grab bag of moments from throughout the series. Your jump from the junkyard of parts 3 and 4 into the high school and boiler room seen in parts 1 and 2. For a fan of the franchise like me, this is actually preferable to a whole game based around a single film. Sure, I would have liked to play as Heather Langenkamp's Nancy Thompson, the most iconic hero in the series. But if you were only going to get a single Nightmare game, at least they packed in as many nods as possible. In conclusion, I found A Nightmare on Elm Street on the NES to be a surprisingly fun adaptation of the film franchise. It's more of a grab bag of Freddy-nisms than it is straight transition, but provides enough details to creatively capture the film of the series. You even get the classic 1-2 Freddy's coming for you tone right before this creepy killer appears to do battle. This game deserves more praise, both as a solid action platform that controls far better than expected and a unique collage of thematic elements. I wouldn't go so far as to call it a horror game, but like a platformer with spooky imagery. But for an 8-bit take on an R-rated beast, I'd say it's no Nightmare. Thank you for watching this video, and peace out till the next one.